Tell me honestly now, folks, have you ever in your life played a game that started off on such a good note, and by the middle of it, the seams start to unravel, and then by the end, you were just wishing that the game would hurry up and end because you're just that sick and tired of it? Well, for the first time in my life, I think, I have experienced that by playing Al-Qadim, the Genie's Curse. Al-Qadim, the Genie's Curse is a video game based around 2nd edition Dungeons & Dragons rules, albeit simplified greatly to make a game that feels more akin to The Legend of Zelda rather than Dungeons & Dragons. It has the stats of the 2nd edition Dungeons & Dragons rule set, and while you do gain experience points and level up like you would in a Dungeons & Dragons video game, all you do is get more health. Your stats stay exactly the same throughout the game, and you also can't find any new equipment either. You get a sling and a ring of protection, but apart from the sword you start with, the Sword of Honor as the game calls it, you don't ever get any new equipment apart from moonstone shards, and depending on which one you find, it'll either be a sword moonstone shard or a sling moonstone shard. I only ever found 2 sword moonstone shards and a single sling moonstone shard and 2 rings of protection. The other moonstone shards that you come across can be used to cast spells so long as the charges last, and there are a finite amount of those moonstone shards throughout the game, including ones that you can purchase from stores. It's a good thing too, because combat in this game is fun, but there is a pretty big asterisk here. You see, this game has some rather janky controls, and until you've leveled up at least once or twice, then you're going to be fighting in a style similar to the way Link did in the original Legend of Zelda, where you can only attack in the 4 cardinal directions, north, east, south, and west. After a level up, you can pay a visit to a training hall where you can spar with the sword master who resides there, and he'll teach you a new sword attack. And you get up to 3 sword attacks if you include the one you start with, the overhead vertical slice. After 1 level up, you gain the ability to attack with a horizontal slice, which eases up combat significantly. Level up a few more times, and then you gain a spin attack, which is similar to the one Link gets in The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past and has stuck with him ever since. That's actually something I would like to talk about. This game feels and even plays like it was supposed to be a Dungeons & Dragons equivalent to the Legend of Zelda series. You have the combat, which has already been shown off at this point, and there are several puzzles in the game that you have to solve. There's a fetch quest in the middle of the game, and there are 3 stealth sections throughout the game as well. Now, the puzzles aren't too bad, but what is bad, and it makes me absolutely despise this game based on them alone, are the stealth sections. Anyway, let's talk about what I wish the game would have been about. Sailing around, fighting pirates, undead water elementals whilst traveling between the islands and towns of Al-Qadim, buying low and selling high and making a profit, with your family being unfairly imprisoned because of something that they didn't do as merely a reason to get you out on this quest. Think something along the lines of Uncharted Waters or Sid Meier's Pirates to have a rough idea as to what I'm talking about here. And while you're trading and sailing throughout the Al-Qadim setting, you would learn clues as to what's happened, why it's happening, and eventually you would lead your Corsair army against whoever it is that has caused your family so much misfortune and to be unfairly imprisoned. Unfortunately, that isn't what Al-Qadim, the Genie's Curse is about, but if it was, then I would recommend it for the trading and sailing bits alone, even with all of the other bullshit thrown in, maybe. Except for the stealth sections, of course. Music is another thing that this game gets right. To be honest, listening to some of this game's music tracks, I'm reminded of the Elder Scrolls Arena and the Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall. Even though they aren't the same songs, it's just the way some of the instruments remind me of each other. Give it a listen and tell me if you agree or disagree. Oh yeah, by the way, while we're on the subject of music and sound effects, some of the sound effects in this game were ripped straight out of Eye of the Beholder 3, Assault on Myth Draenor, and Dungeon Hack, just so that you know. Even the graphics of this game, or at least some of the tile sets, remind me of the Elder Scrolls Arena and the Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall. What with the banners on the walls you'll see, and stuff like that. You know, that's another thing that this game did well, was the graphics. They look good and crisp, and you can tell what everything is, and it's just gorgeous looking all around. So I've gone over pretty much everything else, including the stuff that doesn't really matter, but what about the story? What is the reason that the events of Al-Qadim the Genie's Curse happens? Well, it turns out someone has taken control of your family's genie and has caused everyone, including the Caliph, the head honcho, to suspect your family of trying to kill the Caliph to seize his throne. However, since you cannot control your genie, you alone are spared from the punishment that is placed upon the rest of your family. But you are banned from ever returning to the city of Zaratan until the matter is resolved, until your family's innocence has been proven, and thus do you go out to prove your family's innocence. The storytelling isn't that bad, all things considered. The story has enough twists and turns to be good enough and surprising, but it does feel like you're going through a proper Dungeons & Dragons story, if that makes any sense. In terms of replay value, no thank you. I will not be returning to, or coming back, or replaying, or whatever. No. As I said earlier, the stealth sections of Al-Qadim the Genie's Curse made me want to, unalive myself because of how frustrating they were. I had to reload a save file during one portion of the stealth sections of this game so many times that it literally defies all humanly belief. I mean, I get it. You have to sneak around a palace to find proof of a plot against the Caliph and all that, so it stands to reason that the places where the evidence would be guarded. But all these stealth sections are basically just padding, because that was an acceptable thing to do back then, I guess. Another pointless bit of padding is when you get to the Genie's Isle. There, you have to meet with the Afridi head honcho, but his underling tells you to go kick rocks unless you do her some favors. So, you do one, and then you realize she's just messing with you. So you ask around, and you find out that she loves cruel and flamboyant weapons. So you go to this fiery island that constantly damages you just to get a singing scimitar to get her to move out of the way. Oh yeah, and magical fists rise around to bar your path so that you can't just cheat to get to the giant chessboard in the middle where you have to do a friggin' Legend of Zelda trade sequence just to get that much closer to the Afridi who claims to rule the island. This game had potential. This game could have been good, but janky controls, forced stealth sections, unneeded padding, and a bunch of other pointless bullcrap that I'm pretty sure was just thrown in to make my time playing this game a living hell makes me hate this game, and I absolutely hate, with every fiber of my being, that I have to hate this game, because it's actually really unique as far as RPGs go in terms of setting. Seriously, answer me. How often do we get to play RPGs that have an Arabian Nights setting and lore and genies and Aladdin-based stuff as their setting, their backdrop? Not too many, at least as far as my knowledge of the genre extends. If only the game had been more about being a merchant with some random encounters on your ship as you bought high, sold low, and tried to figure shit out a la Sid Meier's Pirates or Uncharted Water style, then I would recommend this game for that alone. But as it is now, I just can't. Anyways, that's me done with Al-Qadim the Genie's Curse, thank God and his disciples in heaven for that one. And as for the next game, it will be based on a vote that I put on my channel. I will see you all next time, and bye-bye for now.